All right. It has begun. In-cell interview starting now after I can figure out how to get this off my screen. Okay. Back to Chrome. Make sure this is working. We'll just slide it down here. All right. Ready when you are. All right. Hello. I cannot. Can you hear me? Uh-oh. Okay, what is this? This is... Oh, hello.
Oh, there we go.
All right, I can hear you.
Yeah, that was strange.
It was, but we got to figure it out.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. All right.
Okay, sorry. I've never done one of these before. I'm sure you can tell, but I guess thank you for agreeing to the interview.
Yeah, sure.
What do you prefer to go by? Like your name.
Oh, I'm called Sergeant on the forum, but you can call me Sarge or whatever you want. It's fine.
All right. Thank you. So I guess right off the bat, do you identify as incel then?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I'm a little nervous.
No, that's fine.
All right. So I guess tell me a little about yourself, if you want to, any jobs, passions, hobbies.
I mean, there's not much to tell about myself. I'm just a normal person. I mean, when you think about, I don't know what you exactly think when you think about incels, but we aren't any different than any normal person, in the sense that I mean, I've gone to college and I work as well, so
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly what to say. More, I mean, in the sense of more personal stuff, I'd rather not get into, because I'm the admin of the forum, and just for privacy reasons.
All right, I understand. Okay, so why have you decided to run a platform dedicated to the subject?
Well, it all started on November of last year. There was this subreddit called R Incels. I'm not sure how familiar you are with it, but that was basically where incels were born. Not the term, but the community. And then in November it was banned, and I was actually one of the first to see that it was banned. It was out of the blue, and because I was, I guess, the only one who knew from the community, not only that who knew, but that who wanted to create a platform outside of Reddit. I was the only one who did it, and from there it just started growing. Actually, I'm thinking of it. Well, I'm not sure how to go from there. I mean, I can tell you the origin. I mean, from the origins of the forum, I guess then the history keeps going. But the origins itself, it was because I wanted a place where incels as a community could congregate and could be free from censorship that Reddit nowadays, or even back then, had. Because as a community, perhaps because of the definition of incels, actually I haven't even said it. An incel is an involuntary celibate, someone who, contrary to what the name suggests, it has nothing to do with sex, because otherwise you can just go to an escort, right? It has to do with being able to get into a romantic relationship with a woman, or a man if you're a woman, and therefore, if you imagine what would be like for a person to go his life without being able to have any romantic intimacy, then you would assume that that person probably will have some negative consequences in terms of psychological factors, like depression or some kind of mental illness or insecurities, or whatever the reason is that they couldn't get into a relationship in the first place, which usually translates into being very unattractive, or a myriad of other things. So for people like that, generally having a community of other people like them who are able to understand their struggles is very important. And therefore, when Reddit banned the community, having a place for these people to congregate was, again, important. So I decided to make one, and that's pretty much it.
All right. Well, that was very thorough. Thank you.
Sure.
I guess can you explain some of the slang? Like, I was doing a little research and I came across something called sexual market value and the pill colors.
Yeah. Sure. So first of all, sexual market value is. I know it sounds very cold-hearted, perhaps, to make something so intimate, something so abstract, but it's a way of simplifying. If you go like a very simple way of putting what's your chance of going out there and having a sexual partner for the night, right? If you're a 10 out of 10, then you don't even need to lift a finger. If you're a 1 out of 10, you're not even going to get anything, even if you try, put in very vulgar terms. So that's sexual market value. Generally when we talk about females versus males, we say that females have a very high sexual market value because, for example, if you're a female and you go on Tinder, you'll probably get 20 matches in 10 minutes. While if you're a male, you need to be either really attractive, or be extremely funny to either be able to having, to be able to have just a few in like a day. Now, the pills. There are three right now. There are more, but the three mainstream are the blue pill, the red pill, and the black pill. They're just names for a bunch of ideologies put together. It has nothing to do with actual pills. The blue pill is, well, I mean, I could go all day on this, but I'll try to make it short. The blue pill is seen nowadays as idealistic and very naive. It basically says that in relationships, the more important thing is personality and the way that you behave yourself. For example, when on Reddit, for example, when people post their pictures and they say, I don't know, I can't get a date for I don't know, for my prom. What am I doing wrong? And they say, just be yourself. Just, charm her with your personality. And we say that is very blue pilled because that is not how our society works nowadays. The red pill is supposed to be a sort of improvement over the blue pill in terms of saying that no, actual personality and just being yourself is not the way that you want to charm a girl. The real way to charm a girl is with your attitude. You need to have a certain attitude, a kind of dominant attitude. Like, I don't really care, but well, I won't go into the specifics because I'm gonna mess up. But the high level points are that if you use perfume, if you dress a certain way, if you do things a certain way that we can tell you how to improve, then you're very more likely to get a girl. And then you have the black pill, which is the black, I guess, is because it's very fatalistic or perhaps nihilistic, because it says that what matters the most is neither personality nor attitude, but rather appearance. Appearance is everything. If you are very hot, you're going to get anyone who you want. And if you are very unattractive, you're pretty much going to get no one. and that's pretty much it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. That really clears up some of my questions. I saw some black pill forums and stuff. They seem to be really I don't know how to phrase. I guess violent. There are a lot of violent or probably unsavory fantasies associated with that certain pill. Is there like does that have? I'm just kind of trying to ask about like what is there a deeper meaning to it?
I'm not sure what you mean by violent.
Violent, I guess. Just a lot of like I guess rape would be part of like that's just from the short amount of research I was able to do. I saw black pill forums and a lot of it was talking about rape, and that's the only way to get this kind of, I guess, to evolve or move on to the next level.
Well, that's very weird. I mean, as in any community, you will always have some people who push whatever term to the extreme. With Muslims, you have the terrorists. With Germans, you have the Nazis. With Christians, you have the Crusades. Some feminist wants to slaughter all men because they're pigs. I absolutely agree that there are some people who call themselves incels that believe that, in some more extreme things, I suppose. But being incel has nothing to do with violence or aggression or misogyny or rape. I don't know exactly what kind of posts you saw or where exactly you saw them, but at least on our forum, we don't allow any kind of illegal activities or discussion at all. So if it was on our forum, it definitely needs to be removed and the person banned, because that's not okay. Now, again, the black pill, you said that you saw on some black pill forums, the black pill is about simply saying that if you're very attractive, you can have partners easily, but if you're not, then you won't. And that's pretty much it.
Okay. Is there any other like noteworthy slang, like the what was the MGTOW or something like that?
I mean, I'm sure there are, but right now none come to mind. I'm not sure. Well, you have a volcel, which is like a variation of incel. A volcel is basically a voluntarily celibate, means someone who, even though would be able to be in a relationship, does not want to. And then, I mean, those terms are the most important ones, the one that you touched upon.
Okay. So what do you do, if anything, to combat some of the more violent and extreme sentiments within your community?
That's a bit of a strange question. Our site already doesn't allow illegal activity. I mean, when you seem very focused on violence when talking about incels. I'm not sure what that is, why that is. I guess perhaps the media has focused on incels a lot only when certain massacres have occurred with Elliot Rogers and Alec Minasan or Minakan, something like that, which is very regrettable because if you have a community and the only time that they are giving any attention at all is when a guy goes and kills people, of course the community is going to get a bad name. However, as I said before, like two people aren't really a fair assessment of a whole community of thousands and tens of thousands of people. I think what you may refer by violent post or something like that is the fact that we have a very lax free speech on the site, contrary to Reddit, who, for example, doesn't allow any kind of non-politically correct posts on the site. Those people are banned and pushed away from the site immediately. Like with the incels subreddit, which follow the Reddit rules to the foot. It actually didn't have anything illegal on it either, and it still was banned. Like nowadays, the Brain Cells subreddit, which is a spin-off of the incel subreddit, was quarantined, even though it still doesn't have anything wrong with it. Same with the Red Pill, which has nothing to do with incels and still was quarantined. It's all about being politically correct, and on our side, we let people speak their mind. So to speak. For example, that there's this person who I won't name for, I don't want to name him, but this person goes to university and he always has a bad day, and I really feel for him. And sometimes he goes and starts ranting like, "Fuck! Why did this happen to me? This is horrible." And he says some bad words, and we let him do that because it's a place to vent and to talk about your life with people who can understand you. And I know that some people would find that to be very incorrect, or rather very violent in a way. Oh, this person is going crazy. Wow, is he a psychopath? No, sometimes you come from work and you had a bad day and you want to say, wow, I want to kill my boss. You don't literally want to kill him, but I'm sure everyone has some days where they hate their boss. So people come to the site and they just go to off topic and they vent about it. That doesn't mean that they're bad people at all, or most incels go to college, most incels work. They have nothing wrong with them. So I suppose that's what you mean, perhaps, with violent or post of the like.
Okay. All right. I guess, do you have like an end goal for your community, or an agenda? I'm not trying to like say. Yeah. Do you have
no, Inceldom is not a movement. It has nothing to do with agendas or anything of the like. We don't have an objective. Being incel is something you are because you can't find a partner, like you can't find a girlfriend in a few words. Like I don't see what there would be to push.
All right. So what are some of your like specific beliefs, or I guess the community's specific beliefs regarding like women in society and politics?
I mean, there are some. I guess there's two topics here: incels and the black pill. Incels do not need to be black pilled. Do not need to believe in the black pill. Like there's a lot of people out there who are incels and they don't even know because they don't know the term, and that's fine. So when I say that our community has some beliefs, it's not necessarily tied to being incel. Some people, simply because they're incels, are forced to see our society in a more objective way instead of a more emotional way, and therefore have come to have these views. And what views are those? Well, first of all, a lot of our users, in fact, most of them, are very, very ugly and attractive, let's say. So because of that, even though they are very charming and they have some great personalities, I'm friends with many of them and I talk to them very often. They're great people. They simply can't find those who would date them, and that's very regrettable. So about women specifically, there's nothing about them. I mean, they're human. If we were women, we would also do the same thing as them. We would only date the hot guys, because as women, generally they can pick who they want to date, contrary to men who have to fight to date the girl they want. As far as society, I guess that's more something you would have to ask each person. There's not a community-wide belief about society. That's very political, I guess, and politics doesn't really get into incels.
Okay. I guess, do the people, in your life outside of the internet community know that you run this type of forum? Are they supportive?
I mean, I don't have a lot of self-pity, so I don't go around saying, "Oh, I'm an incel, please pity me." I have friends, and they know that I have a forum, but I haven't told them that it's about incels. Not because I'm ashamed. It's my forum. I don't go around telling people what I do in my free time. I mean, how to put it? If you can't find a partner, like if you feel very lonely, I imagine you would go to your friends and you would tell them, "Hi, I feel very lonely," right? And you would talk about that, but you wouldn't go and tell everyone you meet, "Oh, I feel lonely," right? That's not very common. On the same note, I don't go around telling people that I'm incel. I simply am. So I guess no one supports me when it comes to the forum itself. Outside the forum, inside the forum, most people are grateful that they have a place to post, and that's enough for me.
Okay. So I kind of prepared for a very different mentality. I guess when I had researched, I was looking at people who had a different set, like they just didn't like women in general. Those kind. I guess that's what I was exposed to, and that's what I was expecting. But you're actually very different from what I expected. Very pleasant, and I apologize for those stereotypes I had.
No, actually, I've heard the same before. I think the problem is that because incel is a very open word, in the sense that a lot of people, when we say incel, they think, "Oh, terrorist," because of, for example, Elliot Rogers, who wasn't even incel because he didn't. To be incel, you need to try to approach women. Otherwise, it's not really involuntary, right? Because if you can approach someone and say, "Hey, you want to date?" and they say yes, well, then it's not involuntary. You need to approach people, and they need to say no repeatedly, and then you are involuntarily celibate. So with Elliot Rogers, I don't really want to mention him much because he doesn't reflect our community at all. But I know that a lot of people know us because of him. So I wouldn't consider him an attractive person, right? He wasn't particularly ugly. He was fairly normal in terms of appearance. And again, I read his manifesto just for curiosity, because obviously, people are going to reference him. And he never said anything about approaching girls. So, if you are decently attractive and never approach girls, and then you go saying that you're an incel, that was very unfair of the media to portray us that way, to portray us, everyone as him, because he doesn't even belong to the community. So that's one of the reasons why I imagine a lot of people consider us violent and such. And the second thing is that a lot of young people are very angry. The steps of acceptance of a situation, grief and bargain and denial and such. A lot of young people that are, for example, in high school, and they want a girlfriend because of hormones and such, and the girls are, it's high school, it's all a mess. So some of them won't be able to get a partner because, I don't know, some are ugly or some are genuinely have a bad personality. Who knows, right? But and these people then come to our forum and they say, "Wow, I'm so angry. No one will date me. I'm an incel." And while we understand that problem, it's not really, it's something that may change for the person. It's not really fair for neither for the person nor for the community for him to be calling himself incel. It's not that he can't, but generally teenagers are very immature and thus are very angry. If she won't date me, oh, that's so wrong. I deserve to have someone to date, which is understandable because of the Maslow pyramid of needs, right? Sex and affection are at the bottom, so it's one of the human necessities, understandably. But I imagine that some of the posts, the more angry posts, come from very young people who come to our forum believing that they're incels. That's my point.
Okay. Thank you. So what do you believe the average woman's response to to this kind of a mentality is like? I guess what I'm trying to say is women don't generally believe that they only go for handsome men and they disregard the ugly ones. And so we kind of, we don't feel responsible for creating your community, but a lot of the people in your community make us responsible.
Oh, I get it. Actually, this is something very curious about our community, is that Schopenhauer once said that truth goes through 3 steps. The first step is that it's laughed about. The second is that it's violently denied. And the third step is that it's assumed as true, as if it was obvious. So one of these truths is that women actually rate 80% of men as unattractive. That is something very interesting. The studies are linked on our website. There's a full thread, a compilation with links to scientific studies that back up the black pill, because the black pill is not just some random people saying, "Oh, you know what? Women only like attractive guys," and then that's it. There's actually stuff that backs it up, right? So, for example, women rate 80% of men as unattractive. And the reason for this, contrary to, say, 30 years ago when we didn't have telecommunications with cell phones and internet and forums and ads everywhere, is that nowadays women are exposed to a lot of attractive men. For example, when you go on Tinder, if you don't have time to, in quotes, measure someone's personality in their photo, right? You can't measure personality because of a photo. So what girls do, they just swipe on the hot ones and then they test out the personality, right? It's a first and second step. So this has pushed men who are very unattractive to be outright eliminated in the first step of the process, without even mattering if they're good guys or bad guys or whatever. Now, while that is true, you may say, all right, but what about outside Tinder? What about in real life? Well, the thing is, in real life, you have 2 guys approaching you, say, at a bar, right? One guy is attractive and one is not. Because you're a girl and because men like girls, you will probably have far more men going to you than women going to a man. So you will again try to pick the most the one who is either the most sassy, or I don't know what adjective you want to use, the most funny or the more dominant or approachable at the bar. But that's kind of secondary, because the first thing that you see when someone is approaching you is the face. So again, attractiveness is the first thing that is important. Now, you may say, fine, that's Tinder and that's at a bar, but what about, say, at college, or at the library, or I don't know, at the movies, or somewhere where you aren't trying to constantly pick someone for a romantic or sexual activity, rather just meet people normally, right? Well, in that case, yes, of course, the fact that you are close to a person, like friends with someone, the halo effect, it's called. No, actually, that's wrong. Please scratch that. Sure, you may, in that case, you may be right. However, there is something that is called, and yes, now it comes into play, the halo effect, and that is that attractive people are seen as more trustworthy and honest than unattractive people, and that gives them already an edge. Again, you can just Google this. There's like a Wikipedia article on halo effect. Attractive people are also given more salary when they go to work. They're treated better. They have less mental illnesses. So all of this, if you put it into perspective, all of these things that I've said, it turns out that girls have a very high predisposition to attractive men, while men, the same study that said that women rate 80% of men as ugly, men rate 50% of girls as ugly, and the other 50% as more attractive than the average. So while men are in equilibrium, let's say, women try to always date higher than their own level. That is to say, imagine, let's just put a silly example. Suppose you're a 5 out of 10 in terms of attractiveness. You would always try to aim for like a couple points higher than you, while as a man, you will always try to aim for somewhere on your level. I hope all of this is not too confusing. I know that it's very strange, perhaps.
No, I'm actually following along pretty great, and this is really helpful and enlightening, I guess, is the right word. I wasn't really prepared for this such a civil, I guess.
I know, when I read your questions, I imagined that you would go something like this. Every time that someone asks us for an interview, I try to go, do it myself, because I know it will go like this. It will be nothing like what they expect. They expect someone who will be angry and who will be blaming women about all our problems or something like that. It's fine.
Well, I guess. So, how has your community helped you, and like, what have you done to help others in your community?
Well, as for what I have done to the community, I've first of all given them the place to. It will sound a bit arrogant, but I guess I'm like their protector in some way, because you have a bunch of virgins, if you want to put it that way, who are also depressed and they have nowhere to go because Reddit hates them and everyone thinks they're terrorists. So having a place to be able to post with people who understand them, that is a very big thing for them. And actually keeping the site online is not easy, because again, for example, you have registrars like GoDaddy and the .com registrar and the .me registrar, who always are constantly attacking us because they think that that our users are non-politically correct, and therefore, again, free speech dying a little bit more every day. But as for what the community has done for me, it has allowed me to meet people who share my interest, because in real life, I don't have many friends. I have colleagues, but I wouldn't call them friends, right? But I found a couple in the community, and that's enough for me.
All right. So I guess so if your community, so if it's just a community of involuntarily celibates, or I guess now there's also voluntarily celibate people, how come women are not allowed to access or be members on your site? Is there a real reason behind that? Because that was just, if you're really trying to meet women and interact with them, I feel like it would be...
Oh, you mean the no females allowed rule?
Yeah.
Right. So it's not contrary to what one may think. It has nothing to do with misogyny. Obviously, if we want to meet women, the last thing we want is not allow them. But the point is that if you check places like Brain Cells, or if you somehow are able to see posts on our incels, this late subreddit, generally the problem with girls being allowed in this community is that the first thing they do, and this is nothing against them, but it's very curious. The first thing they do is say, female here, I just want to say that not all of us go for the hot guys, and they start with these platitudes, and it's every time the same. They just can't understand. And every girl that comes does the same thing, and sometimes they refuse to talk to hear out what we have to say. For example, you right now had to hear all that I had to say, because, well, this is an interview. But if I had told you in a more casual ambience, the context, that girls go for the hot guys in general, of course not all of them, and not always, but you would probably have told me, I don't think so, that's not true. Not all girls are the same, and you have said the same thing. So it's actually a way to well, let me put it this way. That's one of the reasons. The second reason is that most people don't believe that girls can be incel, simply because as a girl, even if you are very, very unattractive, there will always, or almost always, be someone willing to date you. It doesn't matter if you are obese or if you have a deformity, or, well, you can put whatever problem for the person you have in your mind, will be the same. Girls almost always, if they want to, if they really try, they will always or almost always be able to find a partner. And therefore, for girls, it's very, very hard to be incel. There is a subreddit called femcels, which are supposedly females who are unable to find romantic partners. I don't want to. This is my personal opinion. I think that it's not a realistic subreddit, because if those females were really interested in dating, in my forum, like, almost anyone or everyone would be willing to date them, no matter how they looked. But, well, those are the two main reasons why we don't allow girls in the forum.
Okay. So I guess, so is being part of the industry a large or small part of your life? Is it like a lifestyle, or is it, I know it's something that you would probably prefer to change about yourself, but has it, like, been a large part of who you are?
Well, I mean, I mean, I suppose for anyone, their first relationship is certainly life-changing in some way or another. Whether it is in high school or when you're 20 or when you're 30, finally having someone who you connect to emotionally and in terms of affection, that is very significant. So not being able to have someone like that, yes, of course, it's very impactful for every incel out there. And yes, of course, the idea would be for us to be able to abandon inceldom and be able to have a normal relationship with a person. But I wouldn't say that that it changes us in a way to be incels. I mean, it's just a name for a situation.
Okay. So is there anyone in your community that you, like, look up to or use as an example? I heard something about the Ultimate Gentleman. I have honestly no idea what that is, but I'm just asking.
That's a bit of a meme. The Supreme Gentleman, not the Ultimate. The Supreme Gentleman is Elliot Rogers. He called himself that in his videos on YouTube. It's really funny. I mean, I know that it sounds kind of weird to say that a mass murderer can be funny, but if you leave that part aside, yes, it was kind of funny. Him calling himself the Ultimate Gentleman, the Supreme Gentleman, even though he never approached girls. But apart from that, I don't think there's anyone in particular that I look up to. I mean, there's a lot of people I respect, but no one that I look up to.
Okay. I guess, is there anything you would like to add or let me know about your community?
I don't think so. I mean, I think I covered pretty much all the main points. I guess most of all, I'd like to add that whatever you read on the media, it's mostly sensationalistic stuff. It's they always do it to sell the most newspapers. It has nothing to do with reality. And this is not only for insults. This is for like everything you read on the newspaper. If they are wrong about this, who knows what else they're wrong about, right? Just making your own critical analysis of things instead of relying on a third party's opinion on it is very important.
All right. Well, I guess that's all I really have for you. Thank you so much. That was a very enlightening interview, and it really changed my outlook on your community. And at first, I thought it was pretty, vile. But
No, yeah, I get it. No, thank you for the opportunity. Do let me know if this is gonna be like public or where it's gonna be published. I'd like to hear it.
Yeah, it won't. It's nothing too special. I'm just a freshman in college, but so this is my first, any kind of venture into anything like this. But I will send you a copy, and if you wanna, and I'll let you know if I post it anywhere.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
No problem. Have a good day.
You too. Interesting. That was nothing short of